Hey everyone, Dan Healy here from the Miami Heat UK. Just catching up on the news overnight that the New York Knicks have extended RJ Barrett to a 120 million 4-year deal, which pretty much puts an end to their sort of off-season chase of Donovan Mitchell in Utah. And that now brings a lot of people's thoughts towards the fact that they're saying that Miami now are considered to be the front runner for Donovan Mitchell. We know all season long the chase has been to keep some sort of flexibility open for a pursuit for Kevin Durant. That has now no longer materialised, as we know, and the Heat are rumoured to be the fallback option to be interested in Donovan Mitchell. Now, let's just have a quick look at that because similar to the KD deal, obviously it's going to take some sort of haul, maybe not as much as what the Nets were expecting for Kevin Durant, but if you look at what Miami's assets are available, well, we know certainly Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo are going to be off the table here. They wasn't willing to put Bam Adebayo on the table for KD, so they're certainly not going to do that for Donovan Mitchell. They're not going to be interested in a Kyle Lowry type player because Utah are going to be looking to reset, so why would they be interested in a veteran player with a couple of years still on his deal? That's not going to be a piece they're going to be looking at. So they're going to obviously look to take on a deal headlined by Tyler Herro. And, we can look at whether we think this is enough or not. But let's just have a quick look at what the package would probably look like, what Miami's best assets they could put forward to make this some sort of deal that might be attractive to Utah. So, Tyler Herro, maybe 3 first-round picks, which is really what all Miami have got to offer, and then maybe Duncan Robinson as well. Would that be enough for Utah? Would that be too much for Miami? You know, we know that Miami are very high on Tyler Herro. They haven't extended him yet. If we're looking at RJ Barrett getting that sort of 30 million a year deal, then Tyler Herro will be in that bracket. Some might say that's too much. I'm one of those. But I just wanted to compare what Tyler Herro and Donovan Mitchell looks like, because if that's the headline piece, let's just make a quick comparison here. Donovan Mitchell and Tyler Herro are both, heavily one-way players. They've got absolutely no defense to either of their game at all. In fact, Donovan Mitchell statistically a worse defender than Tyler Herro, which is quite incredible. So heavily one-way players. Look, obviously, if you're looking at one-on-one, you're putting them side by side. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell is the more advanced player here. He's the better player. He's a 3-time All-Star already in 5 years of NBA basketball. Let's just have a quick look at the offensive stats. So more to the point, points per game, because that's what they offer. They're scorers. So we want to see what these stack up. 5 years in the league for Donovan Mitchell. He's averaging 23.9 points per game. 3 All-Star appearances already under his belt. Tyler Herro, 3 years in the NBA under his belt. He's averaging about 16.9. But more specifically, last year he was averaging almost 21 points per game, which, as we know, is not a million miles off of what Donovan Mitchell was putting up last season. Yes, I know there's the sort of argument that he's coming off the bench all season. He's going to be coming up against second units. Can he do that time and time again against starters? But then Donovan Mitchell is much more high usage. He hasn't got to share the ball with Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry and Bam Adebayo, etc. Tyler Herro doesn't have that option. If you put the ball in his hands more often than not, like Donovan Mitchell does, then maybe it would stack up. So the question is, if you're Miami here, you've got Tyler Herro, 21 years old, just going into the 4th year. Is it unreasonable to say that he will never reach Donovan Mitchell's ceiling? He's got the potential to be an all-star player, I believe. And I know the argument that we constantly say, and I've said it myself, you can't really compare the two until Tyler Herro becomes a productive player in the postseason, in the playoffs, when it matters, when you can tell. Donovan Mitchell has done that countlessly, albeit never really seeing him get past the second round, but obviously he's an effective weapon in the playoffs. And Tyler Herro gets a lot of criticism for not doing that, but if you just look at the 3 seasons he's had in the NBA, in his first season was the bubble. He was incredible in the playoffs. He was one of our best players in the playoffs alongside Jimmy and Goran. Second year, he was useless, but everybody was useless in the playoffs. We got swept by the Bucks in the first round. Nobody can hold their head up and say they played good basketball. And then last year, again, he had a really good season. The expectation was him to take that on and become an effective player in the playoffs. But he got hurt. He got injured. Just like Jimmy Butler was hurt, just like Kyle Lowry was hurt, just like PJ Tucker was hurt. They all carried injuries. So is it fair to say, another season and he hasn't done it in the playoffs? Maybe it's a bit harsh. So Although you look at it on paper, Miami's best offer, Tyler Herro, Duncan Robinson, 3 first-round picks. You'll get many fan bases, many in the Heat fan base that will say, yeah, that you would do that. Not 10 times out of 10 you would do that if you're the Miami Heat. I'm not so sure. Not so sure. I just think that maybe we're undervaluing the importance of Tyler Herro, and maybe this season is the most important tell here because he'll become a starter. The idea is that he'll become a starter. It may be one of those things that will come back and bite you because, like I said, side by side, yes, Donovan Mitchell is the better player now. But I'm not sure whether I want to give up all of our picks, plus Duncan Robinson, which everybody's just throwing Duncan Robinson into any trade. Like he's just a throwaway piece. He's still a very effective player. Yes, he didn't have the best year, maybe a disappointing year, and he fell out of the rotation. But that's more down to the fact that Max Strus was exceptional. He took his chance, rather than Duncan Robinson was really poor. I think Duncan Robinson could come back and be a really good asset. So I don't think that's a terrible package. Would you do that? Let me know in the comments. I'm not so sure. I think maybe it's a bit high. I think that I would try and keep hold of Tyler Herro, go with the roster that we've got. But I don't know. What do you think, guys? Let me know in the comments.